Yo, Wagwan, it's your boy Chill Samp, aka Brother Numsi, bringing y'all another episode of Sports Coasters Football Miami Dolphins edition for week number 3. Before we get started, trying something a little different. Shout out to the artists y'all here playing in the background, local artists from Miami, Lil Duce, really fire, really fire. I'm going to try to start, promoting some local artists in my intros so we can give some exposure and show love to those, who kind of support the platform and who support the hip hop culture. Because, it's all about bringing sports and hip hop together. So shout out to Lil Duce. Y'all can check him out on Spotify. Get a chance. He got some fire music. So y'all go and download some of his music and check it out on Spotify and all other platforms that are streaming too. So let's jumping right into the situation. So today episode that we got going on is going to be a very historic episode. We got a great show for y'all. We're going to run down the scores around the league. We're going to break down the Dolphins' historic win over the Denver Broncos that took place over this last weekend for week 3. And then we're going to give predictions for the upcoming week 4 games that we got coming up as well. So y'all don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, do all those things. Those of y'all who've been showing me love, who've already subscribed to the channel, appreciate y'all. Big salute to everybody that's showing love and been supporting me. So without further ado, what we're going to do is start off with running through some of the scores from last week, see how the predictions that I made went, and then we'll just jump right into week number 3 breakdown of the Dolphins versus the Broncos. So starting off with the New York Giants taking a huge L. They got y'all. All my people in New York, shout out to y'all, but y'all got to really hold these L's for these first couple of weeks of the football season. The Giants took a huge L to the 49ers, 30-12. Didn't really look too good on that one. The Cleveland Browns, they did beat the Tennessee Titans 27-3. Detroit Lions proved me wrong, beating the Atlanta Falcons 20-6. Green Bay Packers beat the New Orleans Saints 18-17. We also had the Chargers of Los Angeles. The LA Chargers won 28-24, proving me wrong against the Vikings. The Patriots beat the Jets 15-10. The Buffalo Bills, as predicted, took care of the Washington Commanders 37-3. That was a huge one. The Texans also proved me wrong, taking care of the Jacksonville Jaguars 37-17. The Indianapolis Colts proved me wrong as well, beating the Ravens in overtime 22-19. Seahawks pulled out the victory over the Carolina Panthers 37-27. The Chiefs, as expected, put a whooping on the Bears 41-10. That was a huge victory for Kansas City Chiefs. The Arizona Cardinals proved me wrong by beating the Dallas Cowboys. They proved a lot of people wrong in that game, beating the Cowboys 28-16. And the Steelers of Pittsburgh took care of the Raiders 23-18 and proved me wrong in that one. So I got to admit, I got to hold a lot of L's for my predictions from last week. So I'm hoping that my predictions this week look a little bit better. But hey, we had some good football games, and shout out to all of the winners and fans of all of the teams that won. Y'all took care of y'all thing and did your thing. The Eagles took care of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as I mentioned, 25-11. And then the Cincinnati Bengals did beat the Rams 19-16. So salute to those games as well. But hey, the Miami Dolphins versus the Broncos, that week number 3 victory, that was a huge historic win for the Miami Dolphins. And I mean, the Dolphins beat Denver so bad, it looked like the Miami Dolphins was kind of getting some payback for the Miami Heat losing to the Denver Nuggets in the finals of the NBA. So we're not going to talk too much about that, but that looked like a little bit of retribution for the fans of Miami over the fans of Denver and that whole entire city. So salute for that. The talk around the league all week long has been the Dolphins' big win over Denver. What they did was tied the scoring record by putting up 70 points. The Miami Dolphins put up 70 points, tying the NFL scoring record for single game points. Hasn't been done since the 60s, with the final score being 70-20. And that's not a typo. 70-20. That's a legit head-busting victory that the Miami Dolphins put on the Denver Broncos. again, hasn't happened since the 60s. So for something like that, those of y'all who got to witness that, that was a really historic win, and it was a really big win and a fun game to watch if you're a Dolphin fan. Miami in this game making its home season debut. It gave us fans a real treat. They showed up, they showed out, they didn't hold anything back, and they ran it up. They ran the score up as they should. With those kind of weapons we have, they did their thing. Every quarter in this game, the Dolphins scored at least 2 touchdowns. And then in the second and the fourth quarter, they scored 3 touchdowns in each of those quarters. So it was a scoring clinic for the Miami Dolphins. And that's what we like to see as fans. With the amount of weapons that the Dolphins have and the expectations that we had, we like to see them put numbers on the board like that. And that was a really feel-good win. Firing on all cylinders, your boy Tua, he was blazing. He was 23 of 26 passing for 309 yards, 4 touchdowns, and a 155 quarterback rating. That's almost a flawless performance. And we can't give credit to Tua without saluting the O-line. The O-line did their thing in keeping him upright, keeping him clean. He was not sacked one time. He had time to throw the ball, even though he wasn't taking much time. He was very decisive with his reads and getting the ball out of his hands really quickly. But that's a big testament also to the O-line by keeping him clean and keeping him upright. As for the running game, there was 5 total rushing touchdowns in this game by the Dolphins. So it wasn't just a one-sided victory or one-sided performance for the passing game. The running game also turned up with 5 touchdowns in that game. Radio Raheem Mostert, the starting running back for the Miami Dolphins, he had 3 of those touchdowns himself on 82 yards rushing. A big surprise in the running game, however, was the backup, Devon Achane. 203 yards on 18 carries with 2 touchdowns. That's insane for a backup running back to come in there and put up those type of numbers in a home opener. That's big. And that's also a good positive sign for the Miami Dolphins and their run game, knowing that they have a running stable like that between the 2 running backs that we have, putting up those kind of numbers. That was just insane. As for the receivers, Tyreek Hill, the cheetah, who's arguably the fastest player in the whole NFL, which really probably shouldn't even be up for debate, but it's arguable. He finished with a touchdown on 157 yards. So he had over $157 in receiving yards to help the Dolphins cause as well. Backup receiver, Robbie Chosen, the chosen one is what we call him, who is actually replacing the injured Jalen Waddle, who is out with a concussion from practice. Hope, shout out to you, Jalen Waddle. Get well soon. We want to see you back on the field real soon. But good to know that Robbie held it down for you, because he ended up with a 68-yard touchdown bomb himself. So he did his thing, even replacing and filling in for the injured Jalen Waddle. Great stuff from the wideouts. It was really good to watch. On the defensive side of the ball, our defensive back, Javon Holland, he led the way with 7 solo tackles of his own. But it just wasn't him. It was a group effort on defense with pretty much everyone on the defensive lineup from top to bottom finishing with either 1, 2, or 3 tackles themselves apiece. So everybody did their thing on defense. As mentioned, it was a group concerted effort to focus and lock in, and those boys did their thing. Shout out to Iman Ogba with 1 sack also on Russell Wilson in that game. So there was a lot of pressure being applied. There was a lot of good defense being played, offensive fireworks. It was just a good overall performance. Now, with the score at 70, the Dolphins were in field goal range and then had a shot to break the all-time record. Now, I know for me personally, your team has worked this hard to attain such a score. It's not something that happens every day. I would have went ahead and allowed my kicker to kick that field goal to go ahead and break the record. It's no disrespect to the other team. It's no disrespect to the coach for the other team, Sean Payton, or none of that. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that most of us won't ever see again happen in our lifetime. So for an opportunity to break that record, I would have liked to see McDaniel send the kicker out there to go ahead and do that. But he chose, as he say, the classy route, and he chose not to kick the field goal when he had an opportunity to break the record, and just elected to give the ball back to Denver at the end of that game when the game was completely out of hand and we were up by 50 points. So again, I see what McDaniels was doing with that. I respect his class. I respect him not trying to show up the other team and not trying to show up the coach. I believe his comment after the game about why he didn't go for it was, that's not what I'm all about. I'm not all about that. But, sometimes it's about the players too. And these guys had an opportunity to make history, and you kind of let that opportunity pass for being respectful. But I get it. I understand. I'm not mad. A victory is a victory. A W is a W. So we good on that. I'm not tripping too much at all. Now, looking ahead to the next game that we have, or for the next week, which is coming up week 4, our next up that we have is Buffalo on the road. That's going to probably be the toughest test that we've had so far, as Buffalo is coming off a big win over Washington, where they beat them boys 37-3. As I predicted, that Buffalo was going to probably run it up on them, and they did that. So Buffalo has a strong front four. Their defensive front four is very strong, probably as strong as any other team in the league. They also have a good quarterback and a very strong O-line. So they're very balanced, and they're strong up front. They have a quarterback who can scramble, who can move around, and can get rid of the ball from different various launching points and various different angles. Josh Allen is not like your typical stand in the pocket type of a quarterback. So the key for the Dolphins in this game, I feel like, is to turn him into a pocket quarterback, kind of contain those edges. If possible, even set the linebackers on the edges so that if Josh tries to scramble either to the left or to the right, he's going to have to go through a couple of linebackers over there. So if he chooses to go up the middle and risk getting his head knocked off, so be it. I would rather live with that than to let Josh Allen kind of work those edges and those corners to scramble, get more yards, or to allow his wide receivers more time to get open. So we all know the longer a quarterback scrambles around, the more likely that his receivers can buy time to free themselves up to get open. And Buffalo has one of the best receivers in the league in Stephon Diggs. So we want to definitely make sure we contain the edges on that. As far as us defending the running game, I feel like we need to load the box on running plays. Add an extra defender in that box, probably 2 defenders in that box, to kind of limit the ability for Buffalo to get their running game going and turn them into a one-dimensional team where Josh Allen is just a drop-back quarterback trying to survey the field and make reads and get rid of the ball, because that's not what he's most comfortable doing. Those of us who have watched him play, we know that. The O-line as well for the Miami Dolphins needs to be extremely sound and keeping Tua upright and clean as they've been doing for the previous weeks. It's going to be a little tougher this week because, as mentioned, Buffalo's front four, they will put pressure, and they do like to blitz. They do like to bring an extra defender, and they fire off real quick. So it's going to be huge for us as the Dolphins to contain that defensive line by having a strong offensive line performance, even having our running backs pick up extra blocks and things like that to buy Tua time and allow him to survey the field and get rid of the ball quickly. That's also huge, and it's key in this game is for Tua to continue to get rid of the ball quickly as he's been doing before. Don't hold on to it. We don't want you burping the baby. We don't want you running around reckless or risking, possibly getting hit, possibly another injury. We know what happened last year, so we're not even going to give that any light and any power, but it's huge and imperative for our offensive line to allow Tua to get into a rhythm. Tua also is responsible for getting rid of that ball and finding the open receiver, which I feel like he can. It's important also in this game that the Miami Dolphins, that we get the running game going early. We have to establish the running game, and Radio Raheem, he should get some early touches really quick and early so that we can keep the Buffalo defense honest. If we can prove to them that not only can we run the ball, but we can run the ball effectively and efficiently, then they have to honor that. They have to respect that, and they can't just sit back in coverage waiting for Tua to get rid of the ball. So they're going to have to bring somebody up and force them to pay attention to our running game. And this should definitely open up the long ball for guys like Tyreek Hill, for Chosen, for Waddle, for anybody down the field who can get open or who can run their quick crossing patterns and their quick post routes, their drag routes, and the quick hitting plays that the Miami Dolphins have been able to take advantage of this year. So with all that being said, I definitely like the Miami Dolphins in this game. They've been playing on all cylinders. They're coming off of a huge win at home, so they're riding a high. I just don't want them to have an emotional letdown or listen to all of the hype that we've been getting and, buying into it. We still have a lot of work to do. This is a long season and it's not over yet. Yes, we had a great game, but this game coming up is going to be the biggest test that we've had so far, and it's against a division rival. So we definitely want to put our best effort forward, and we want to come in there into Buffalo and do our thing. So I like the Miami Dolphins in this game. I'm going to go somewhere around the neighborhood of 28-17 as the final score. I like the fact that we have a balanced attack. I like the fact that our defense will keep Josh Allen contained. And with that, I like that score that I predicted. So for the other predictions around the league, I like Green Bay over Detroit. The Lions proved me wrong last week, but I don't see them being able to pull it off again against Green Bay. Love is doing his thing, and he's coming into his own, and he's definitely making a name for himself. So I look for him to continue his good play and to beat the Lions in that game. I like the Jags at home over the ATL Falcons. Atlanta just lost to the Detroit Lions, y'all. Y'all lose to the Detroit Lions, and I ain't picking you next week. So that's just the way it's going. So I like the Jags at home over ATL. Chicago Bears, they've been looking like hot trash, but after Denver just looked like extreme trash against the Dolphins, I like the Chicago Bears at home over Denver. I mean, they're right for the picking. Denver is right for the picking right now. I look for their confidence to be pretty low and pretty bad. They've been getting bashed all week, so I don't know that they're going to have a really good turnaround here going into Chicago. So I like the Bears. Cleveland at home over Baltimore. I like Deshaun Watson. I feel like he's starting to pick it up. He's starting to get in his groove. He's starting to finally get his legs up under him, and he's knocking off a lot of that rust. So I'm going with Cleveland over the Baltimore Ravens. I like Tennessee over Cincinnati. I don't know what Joe Burrow's calf status is. I don't know. I know he played through the injury before, but I'm not sure how long he can do that or if he's even going to be active in play. So I like Tennessee because they just have a for sure roster and everybody looks healthy on the squad. The Rams over Indy. I'm taking the Rams over the Indianapolis Colts. Indy's quarterback situation, again, it's unknown. I'm not sure what they're doing there. I don't know if Richardson is going to be in or if he's going to be out or what the case is. So I'm going to take the Rams over Indy. I like Tampa Bay over New Orleans. Baker Mayfield has been playing very well for Tampa Bay. I look for him to continue that good play and go into New Orleans and get the dub. I like Philly over Washington. Philly is just a far superior team than Washington. It shouldn't even be close. So I'm going to take Philly over Washington in that game. The Vikes over Carolina. I like Minnesota over the Carolina Panthers. I like Pittsburgh over Houston. I like the LA Chargers over the Raiders in this game. I like the Patriots over the Cowboys. It looks like Dallas got exposed last week without having one of their best defenders on the field. They just completely had a meltdown in Arizona, and it looks like they're probably still reeling from that. So I think teams may take advantage of that, and they got to play the Patriots, one of the best coached and best defensive minds in the game coming into the Dallas building, into the Dallas stadium. So I like Bill Belichick and the Patriots over Dallas. I like San Francisco over Arizona. Yes, Arizona did just beat the Cowboys, but again, the Cowboys are playing without their best defender. They're kind of reeling and trying to find themselves right now. I don't know that that Arizona can do the same thing against San Francisco that they did against the Cowboys. So I like San Fran over Zona. Sunday